All right, well, we are in Exodus 21 today, and this one is a cool one. Okay, so buckle your seatbelts and let's go through this. We're going to go through 1 through 11 today and see how this pictures Christ. It's unbelievable. All right. Now these are the rules that you shall set before them. When you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go free for nothing. If he comes in single, he shall go out single. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons and daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him to God, and he shall bring him to the door of the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall be his slave forever. And when a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as male slaves do. If she does not please her master, who has designated her for himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has broken faith with her. If he designates her for his son, she shall deal with her as a daughter. If he takes another wife to himself, he shall not diminish her food or clothing or marital rights. And if he does not do these 3 things for her, she shall go out for nothing without payment of money. So let's find out what these are all about. This is amazing. Would you read verse 1, please?
Now these are the judgments which you shall set before them.
All right, mine says rules. It's mishpatim, and they mean judgment, rules, laws, that kind of stuff. So these are going to be the rules that are going to guide the judicial system of Israel. Okay, we just got done with giving the law. Then we made the altar. The altar pictured Christ. He's the one that the offerings are going to be made on. He's the offering. It's a 4-corner altar. The cross has 4 corners to it. All of that pictures Christ. So let's see how this is going to picture Christ. Verse 2.
And if you buy a Hebrew servant, you shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go out free and pay nothing.
I like the way yours says servant, because most of them say slave that I see. And we have a problem because we think of the slavery as a different thing. In the Bible, in Israel, the slavery was not what we think like today. Okay? Servant is the best word for that. So good job on your translation.
Ours says servant.
Yours says servant? Wow, mine says slave. Very good. Servant, I think, is the better word. It's going to put the context in better. Even though they're called slaves and even though they had slaves, keep in mind servant is better. Okay, so what kind of slave is this? A servant? A Hebrew slave. So this is specific. This is Ebed Ivri, and so this is obviously going to be a difference between a Hebrew slave and a non-Hebrew slave, right? Servant. Okay. Hebrew means what? Anybody remember? Hebrew means those who cross over. That's what Hebrew means. And Ebed means slave, servant, or bondservant. So this rule is going to pertain to a Hebrew servant. He's going to serve 6 years, and then he'll be set free on the 7th. Okay, so the Hebrew servants have a maximum of 6 years. That's the max they can be a servant. Anybody see what that's picturing yet? Little picture, big picture?
I think the first thing I think of is the 7-year rest for the land, which reflects back to God's creation. He created on 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. And then after that, I think of the 50-year jubilee, which all the land goes back to the previous owner and all debt is wiped clean. And then from there, I think of in Revelation where Jesus comes back, and we will be wiped clean of our debt, and be his property once again.
I got nothing else to do today.
I mean, that's just the thoughts that are coming in.
Well, that's kind of the basic overview of where we're going. So very good. This is what this is gonna be doing. It's got a lot more detail in it though, and I left a lot out. So this is a physical law that God gave the Israelites so they would understand the spiritual understanding behind it. Okay? Who here is a slave or a servant?
The Hebrew.
Well, the Hebrew is. Yeah, there's Hebrews that are slaves or servants. But no man is free. You realize that? We are not free. We are servants. We are slaves to sin, Satan, until we are bought with a price and we come under another master. And now we're a servant of that master. Okay, so you got a bad master and a good master, don't you? Okay?
Doesn't that also reflect somehow Jesus' redemption of us on the cross?
What
too?
does? How does? What does?
Pardon?
What does? What reflects that?
The 7-year set free redemption thing, doesn't it kind of reflect that a little bit too? I can't quite piece it totally, but.
Yeah, we should probably just trade places because you're doing a better job than I am.
Because he redeemed us, he said he paid our debt.
Yes. Yep. Okay, so keep all that in mind as you're learning this stuff and we go through here, because this is going to blow you away when you see all this. Watch. Okay, so how can you become a slave or a servant to somebody? There's like 6 different ways, I think. Anybody know?
Well, debt would be one of them.
Okay, debt. You go into debt and you got to sell yourself to somebody. Okay, so you can become a servant that way or a slave. What's another one?
You voluntarily submit to it.
Yeah, you can voluntarily submit to that, but why would you voluntarily?
You're hard up for money and a place to live, but figure if you go be a servant to somebody, he'll provide you a place to live and probably feed you.
Okay,
Somebody feel obligated because somebody saved their life or something or other.
okay, yeah, maybe. Do you realize that a father can sell his child into servanthood or slavery? And we have an example of that in Nehemiah 5:5. You can be a thief, but you can't pay the fine, so now you've got to go into slavery until you pay that debt off. Okay. You could be captured in war and become a slave of another person that captured you. And you can also be a slave when you get ransomed from a Gentile. So you got dead. That was kind of like what was happening with Ruth and Naomi. You know, they lost all their land and they had to sell their land. Well, you had to have a redeemer, a kinsman redeemer, buy you back into the family. Okay. All of the Hebrew people are to be released on the 7th year. Okay, that's the year of rest. They couldn't serve more than 6 years. Okay. So
In 6 years, kind of reflecting the 6 days of creation.
yeah, bring that into mind because that is the big picture.
And the 7th day of rest, relieving the slaves from their debt.
Yes. Do you see what's going on here? God gave us this pattern in the creation week of 6 days of work, 1 day of rest, but this is actually pointing to 6 millennial days of work and 1 millennial day of rest. So we're talking 6,000, 7,000 now. Do you see that pattern? Okay.
Yeah, and the Jubilee is 50, which is, and it usually starts on the 49th year, which is 7 sevens.
Yes. It starts on the 50th year.
And then the 50th year is the 7th, or is the last?
The 8th.
Jubilee year.
You got 7/7, that's 49,
49, and then the Jubilee
and
year,
then the Jubilee year is 50.
50.
Yeah. And 50 pictures what? Redemption. Huh?
That's fine.
5 times 10. But yeah, 50 is a picture of redemption or silver. Okay? So in Exodus 23, check this out. It says, "For in 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its yield, but the 7th year you shall let it rest and lay fallow, that the poor of your people may eat, and that they leave the beasts of the field may eat, and you shall likewise with your vineyard and with your olive orchard. 6 days you shall do your work, but on the 7th day you shall rest, that your ox and your donkey may have rest, and the son of your servant woman and the alien may be refreshed." Okay? So there's a lot of people, Bible scholars, that think that this is based on the Shemitah, which is the 6 years of work on the land, and then the 7th year you get a rest. So what they say is that the Hebrew people couldn't work in a Shemitah year. And I don't know that that's particularly true. It says that there shall be no, they think that there should be no slave in the Shemitah year. So the maximum number that a Hebrew can serve is 6 years. He's to be let go on the Shemitah year. And I don't know if that's right or wrong based on that, because the Shemitah is rest for the what? Land, not the people, okay? The Sabbath is rest for the people, but you got a bigger picture. You got 7 years and all that. So I can kind of see where they get that, and it might be, but I may not be. So for instance, like if it was 2 years to the Shemitah, the max you can be is 2 years slave. That's how they would see that. But if you read it the way it reads, the max he can be is 6 years. He would have to work through the Shemitah to get his 6 years and back. That's another understanding of that. Okay. The maidservant in this particular verse that I just read you, Exodus 23, it's feminine, and the man is not mentioned resting other than the son of the maidservant. Okay. So it doesn't fit that the man wouldn't be set free if the son of the servant woman is. So I can see both sides to this, whether you are let go on the Shemitah or you have to work through the Shemitah. Okay. Some believe that they could still be a slave for 6 years even through the Shemitah. Okay, you had to work during the Shemitah. The Shemitah is to give your land a rest. You're not to work the land. Okay, so he could have continued being a slave through that point. That's another perspective. Okay, and then we were talking about the Jubilee here. Leviticus 25 says, "The Sabbath of the land shall provide food for you, for yourself and for your female slaves, and for your hired servant and the sojourner who lives with you, and for the cattle and your wild animals that are in your land, all its yield shall be food." Okay? So God's going to provide for you during the Shemitah year and the Jubilee year. Okay, the 7-day or year rests are picturing God's redemption. We just talked about that. Okay, he gave us this plan in the beginning, 6 days of work and 1 day of rest is the little picture because it's a week, and then you have the big picture, which is the millennial days. Okay, so you have 6 years of slavery, and you get followed by a year of freedom, or forever freedom. Okay, unless you go back into slavery. All right. Let's see. Deuteronomy 15:12-14 says, "If your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th year you shall let him go free. And when you let him go free from you, you shall not let him go empty-handed. You shall furnish him liberally out of your stock, out of your threshing floor, and out of your winepress, as the Lord your God has blessed you, you shall give him. Why is that? What do you think that is? The Deuteronomy 15 up here, 12-14. Why do you think that if the Hebrew slave is to be worked 6 years and you're letting him go in free in the 7th, well, he paid his debt, right? I mean, that's what he was there for. Why are you to pay him liberally out of what you...
Because if not, you gotta go into slavery again because you don't have nothing.
Okay. All right. So give him something to live off of. All right. Now here's something. This guy has worked for you 6 years. Okay. He has had a debt to you, but now he has worked, and if he's worked well, he has brought profit to you. Okay. It's kind of like, you know, us working on our jobs or whatever. You know, if you're a good employee, guess what? You're probably going to get a good Christmas bonus, aren't you?
Right.
Because you brought in a lot of money for the company. You were a good servant, if you will. And he's to be let go on the 7th year. Okay. And then Leviticus 25, 39 to 41 says, if your brother becomes poor beside you and sells himself to you, you should not make him serve as a slave. He shall be with you a hired servant and a sojourner. He shall serve with you until the year of Jubilee. Then he shall go out from you. He and his children with him shall go back to his own clan and return to the possession of his fathers. So this Jubilee is really, in my opinion, the one that determines if you got so many years up to that. Like there's only 2 years up to the Jubilee, that guy's only going to work 2 years. They didn't say that about earlier, especially with the Shemitah. It says that with the Jubilee. But you have to keep 7 Shemitahs to have a Jubilee, don't you? So it kind of follows that maybe there is a progression there, okay? If they're supposed to keep the Jubilee, then they should be keeping 7 Shemitahs before that, shouldn't they? Well, we know that they didn't keep a Shemitah because why? Anybody know? 2 Chronicles 36:21. They went into Babylon, went into slavery. It says, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah until the land had enjoyed its Sabbaths, Shemitahs. All the days that it lay desolate, it kept Sabbath to fulfill the 70 years. They did not keep 70 of these Shemitahs. So God's going to say, okay, you ain't letting the land rest, so they're working through them.
Right.
They're still pulling off of the land and not letting the land rest. So God says, okay, you're going to go in Babylon 70 years. Well, guess who was in Babylon? Big key prophet, Daniel. He prophesied that there would be a 70-week prophecy, 490 years until Messiah. This is where this comes from. Because they went in slavery 70 years, now there's going to be 70 weeks, then Messiah is going to show up, okay? So, if they didn't keep the Shemitahs, they weren't keeping the Jubilees, okay? All right. Here's something too, because of that, this is actually another confirmation as to the big picture on how long they have not been with Christ. 2,000 years? That's 40 Jubilees. That's 40 times 50, and we're on the threshold of crossing the line here coming up. I think 2030. Some people think 2023 or 32, and some people think 2033 or 4. I think 2030 is 2,000 years after Christ died. So that pattern is there. Okay, they're going to be separated from God 40 Jubilees because they were separated from God or from the land, Israel, 70 Shemitahs, 70 years. Okay, so.
You know, I just saw something, it just kind of a question in my mind. up here, you know, the Shemitah is 50.
The
Or
Shemitah
not the
is 70.
Shemitah, but the Jubilee is 50. And then you look up here and it says fulfill 70 years. So is that kind of pointing to maybe 20 years after the last
Well, this is
Jubilee?
Daniel prophesying about when Christ is going to come. Okay, he knew that they would be leaving and going back home to Jerusalem after 70 years in captivity. And he took that 70 years, made it 70 weeks until Messiah.
Okay.
490
But it may not
years.
be pointing to the last, like, 70, instead of 50, the last 50 years, the last Jubilee, maybe 20 years past that a little bit.
No, I think when God does something in his word, he does it on time, the day.
Okay.
And I don't think we completely understand it sometimes until it happens and then we figure it out. But God has established these patterns and these days. He outlined the stars in the sky for times and seasons. That's his appointed times. He let us know. He came exactly on those times. He was crucified at 9 in the morning. He died at 3 in the afternoon, just like the Passover lamb was supposed to eat. All these things are patterns pointing to how he is going to redeem us. He did each one of those feasts in line.
When did Israel get its independence?
When did Israel get their independence?
Well, not independence, but during the war, they got their homeland back.
Well, they became a nation in 1948,
48.
and they took Jerusalem in 1967.
So go 70 years past that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's got a tie to that or not. So we're already past that if you're talking 48, because in 70 years times 67 is 7, I guess. So anyway, so this really is a picture. You see what that's picturing? This is a picture of how long humanity, from creation to the end, is going to be in slavery. We are in slavery. We are in bondage to another master right now until we die to ourselves and come to another master, Jesus. Okay? So, and that's why I think the Jubilee is really important, because that's the point when everything's going to revert back to its rightful owner. And that's coming up in the future. We're still looking at that, when God is going to get back everything physically. Come back and collect it. The deed's already been written. It's already his. He's just going to come get it. Okay? So the maximum that the Hebrews can be a slave is 6 years. The maximum humanity is going to be a slave, I think, is 6,000 years, 6 days, and then you're going to get a rest, a millennial rest. Okay. So we're going to see in verse 5 here how he's going to pay your debt and become your servant. Okay, verse 3 on his.
If he comes in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him.
All right. So she's not the slave owner's property, is she? If the guy goes into slavery, his wife comes in with him, he's already married, right? So if she's willing to go into slavery with him for 6 years, guess what? He's going to come out with her, because they were already married before that. Okay. We understand that. Okay, verse 4.
If his master has given him a wife, and she has borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself.
You guys got a problem with that?
Well, did you just give her the wife or did they get married?
Both.
I
Both.
mean,
They had sons and
I'm
daughters.
gonna loan you this wife.
Well, okay.
Make me some kids, make me some more servants.
All right. Let's see where you're thinking. We got a problem with this verse, don't we? Because we're thinking this way. Let's think spiritually, big picture. Who is this supposed to point to? Christ. So how is this doing that? Okay. If the master gives this guy a wife and she bears him sons and daughters, the wife and her children should be your masters, and he shall go out alone. So if he comes in, he don't have a wife, the master gives him a wife, she's the master's. Why do you think that is?
She was already there.
Okay, she was already there. Why would that master have a female to give to him?
Chances are that female may be his daughter
Well, could
or
be.
his servant. But probably.
But he probably wouldn't give his daughter to be a slave,
Right.
you know, if that really was his daughter. So this is probably more likely another servant who is in debt, right? Well, guess what? Just because you pay your debt off and leave doesn't mean her debt is paid off and she can leave with you, right? That's like one guy at the bank paying off his car. Well, now everybody's car is paid off. It don't work that way. Okay.
It'd be nice if we did.
It would for the people that still owe a debt, yeah. But isn't it great that we owe a debt that got paid off by one person? It did work that way for us spiritually.
Also look at if he comes in alone and as things go on, he'd probably be wanting to leave to go get a wife. And by his master giving him a wife, then he wouldn't have to go out looking for one.
That's good. And we're going to bring that in here in a minute. Okay. So, this person that was given to this guy, this female, was probably another slave, so she belongs to the master. He is providing her to him for companionship. He's a good master. He doesn't want you to be, without companionship for 6 years, okay? And more than likely, this other lady is probably more even a non-Hebrew slave, because if she was a Hebrew slave, she was supposed to be let loose on the 6th year too, right?
Right.
She's supposed to go out free. Well, this is probably not necessarily a Hebrew slave. This probably could be a Gentile slave. Okay, but she would belong to the master, and usually Gentile slaves are forever, Okay, so they belong to the master forever. Who are we?
Gentile.
Gentiles. We belong to the master forever. Okay? So, she is not going to go free until her debt is paid if she's a Hebrew, but she can leave when her debt's paid. Okay, once the man has paid his debt, it doesn't follow that now her debt's paid and she can leave, even though she's got 3 more years. Okay? And the children, why do the children still become the masters?
Because they belong to her.
They belong to her who belongs to him, and the children stay with the female. Okay? Remember Hagar and Ishmael? She was cast out. Well, the child went with her, even though she was Abraham's. Okay. Man should not be alone. It's not good that man be alone. So that's really kind of a fulfillment of what this good master is doing, allowing you not to be alone. Verse 5.
But if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free.
do not want to go out.
He does not want to go out free. I will not go out free because I what? I love my master. Why would you love a slave master unless you were a good master?
Right.
Okay, unless you were a good servant master. Okay, you would not want to stay with a slave that's got a whip in one hand and a
Right.
rod in the other. And no, it's obvious in Hebrew, in the Hebrew culture, these slaves, servants, were treated with respect. In fact, they were treated with so much respect that when you're done with your debt, you are to get a good portion of what you just made for the guy. Okay, you're going to go out with something,
Right.
not be in debt again. So please understand that this is not slavery like what we think slavery is. It's servant, being a servant and owing somebody, and yet he's going to let you work for him for a while and give you liberally.
I could see that if that master was a good master for that servant, it would be like having a family and being at home, you know.
Yeah, he had it better off with the master, the servant master or slave master, whatever you want to call him, the servant master. This is the way I think it should be done. He had it better off than he did when he was on his own, because he got in debt, right? And he says, I love my master, I love my wife, who the master gave me, and I love my children, and they're his, and I don't want to leave them. They're gifts from God. I don't want to leave him because he's a good master and I got it well off here. He says, I don't want to go out free. Okay? You wouldn't do that if your master was harsh. Okay? Verse 6.
Then his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the door or to the doorpost. And his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever.
All right, so there's a way you can make this permanent. If you want to stay with the master forever, there's a way to do it. What do you think this is picturing right here?
Christ.
Christ is all over this verse. All over this verse. Check it out. Let's see, we're in 21:6. All right, look at this. You've got, and then shall bring him to his master, the judges, Ha Elohim. That's Ha Elohim. Ha Elohim can be God, and it can also be judges. So you're going to, there's two pictures going on there. Keep that in mind. In that one word, there's two pictures. Okay, and he shall bring him to the door. By the way, who's the door?
Christ.
Okay, and where is the door on earth that this is picturing? You're going to bring him to the door of the house. Where was the master's house? In Jerusalem, the temple. Okay, just keep that in mind. Or to Hamazuzah, the doorpost. Anybody remember something that you were supposed to do on the doorpost and the mezuzah, the doorpost?
You put the blood of the lamb.
That's exactly right. You put the blood on the lamb, on the right, on the left, and on the top. What's that picture? The cross. That picture's the cross. Jesus Christ. Okay? The altar. And he shall pierce his master. Look at there. At Olive Tov. There's the Olive Tov. His ear with an awl, and he shall serve him la'olam, forever. Okay. So, who was pierced on the door? Jesus.
Hebrew.
Huh?
The Hebrew.
Well, if you want to stay with your father, you're gonna do that. You're gonna pierce your ear. Okay? Christ is all over in all this different stuff to pull out of here. You're going to come before the judges. Okay, let's look at that perspective. Why would the master have to bring the slave to say, hey, I want to be with you forever? Why would God require this master to bring him before the judges in front of everybody?
Because
Weren't they the ones that determined what the law was and maybe implemented it?
Yeah, and be witnesses. You know, if you remember Boaz, Boaz, he had to go to the kinsman redeemer that was before him, and he says, nah, I don't want Ruth, you know, she's a Gentile, and I don't want to deal with it, so you can do it. Well, Boaz had to go, and him, to go before the judges and make this public. You know, I'm making this right so that the public will know he is not going to do the kinsman redeemer, I'm going to do the kinsman redeemer.
It's a way of making it legal.
It's where to make it legal. Now, think about this. This guy was a servant and a slave. You would have to make that public, because if it wasn't, the master can just put all in your ear and say, well, he wanted to be my servant. Well, there's no witnesses to that. It's your word against his.
right.
Okay, this requires there to be a witness to this. Now, go back to here. This is where you would have done this. They had gates of the city. This is a gate at Gezer, and they found one of these at Hazor, and they found one at Megiddo. They all look the same. Okay, these are gates of the city, and they shape with little rooms on the sides of the gates as you come in. Okay, and what happens is when you come into the city, this can be a place of good strategic defense, because you would have people on top, you would have people in these cubby holes, and if someone broke through the door or the gate and was coming in to attack the city, they would get bombarded and pelted with stones and spears, and you had a mass of people right there ready to attack you, and you're going to have a fight on your hands as you're coming into the city. Okay, another place that they did here is this is where they held all the transactions, all the governmental judicial stuff. If you traded land, if you did a redeemer thing, if you made any type of judgments and had to be public, if you put
That was like the court.
huh?
The court back then.
Yeah, it is where they held the courts. Okay, here's another picture of that. And then here is at Megiddo. And there's another one. I don't even know where that's at. That looks like Megiddo to me, but anyway, here's just a rendition of even a bigger one. So this is what it would look like coming into one of these cities. And this is where the court took place, courtrooms.
Let's go back to that first picture. No. There. Those stones are not hewed by hand, are they?
I don't think they are, no.
They're just normal stones.
Yeah, I think so.
Selected to go together and make a law.
They haven't been chiseled out or anything by man.
I don't think so. Yeah, back then they just picked up rocks and piled them on top of each other and filled little ones in the spot where they fit and held everything together. Okay, so there's another picture here of Ha Elohim. You bring him to the judges, but Ha Elohim is also what? You can translate that as? The God. You're bringing him in front of God. So there's two pictures going on here. There's a physical picture and a spiritual picture. Okay, so this guy had to be taken to the judges to make it public so that you would know that it's his free will decision to be a slave forever to his good master. Anybody see what that's picturing?
Christ.
Yeah. And it's also picturing our decision, free will, by the way, decision, not by compulsion, in order to do this. And guess what we do? We make it public by standing up in front of the church and being baptized and saying, I want to be associated with Christ. He is my Savior. Okay? Ha Elohim. All right, you're going to bring him where?
To the judges.
Before the judges, and it says to the door, Hadelet. Who's the door?
Christ.
Christ. But technically speaking, keep the temple in mind too, because Christ is our offering, and he was the door, but he also had to be before the door of the Lord in order to make a rightful offering, okay? And the doorpost is Hamazuzah, and that's the way into the house. That's the post. You got to go through it, okay? Pierce is Ratzah, and master is Adonai, which comes from Adonai, which is my Lord or my master. And then you've got the Aleph Tav again, the Et. Ear, Ozen. Okay, what do you do with the ear?
Pierce it.
You pierce it. Okay, the ear hears. Faith comes by hearing the word of God, and you are to pierce your ear on the doorpost. Well, Christ was pierced on the doorpost, wasn't he? Through his hands. Now, the ear, you can go to Psalms, and he'll use that same word and show you that it's picturing a body he has prepared for me. He takes the same words that we see here, and he changes ear to body, which is showing you Christ. This ear pictures the whole body that's going to be pierced for you. Jesus Christ's body was pierced for you on the cross. With an all, a mar, bamart say, and that actually comes from Ratzah too. And serve, ve'abado, that means and work, forever. Okay, this is a picture of salvation, someone hearing and wanting to be a servant of the good master forever. And he comes to the door, makes a public profession that I want to be with Christ forever. Okay.
Kind of makes me think of the wedding covenant too. You know, at the end where we have the wedding feast with the Lord.
Yes. Yes, next week we're going to bring that into the picture that God's given us here in these words. Okay, we need to be crucified with Christ, don't we? Okay, he's the door of salvation. So we need to come to him and die to ourselves, pick up our cross, die to ourselves, and live for him. Right? Okay. So Psalms 40. Do I have that on here? Yeah, there it is. In sacrifice and offering you have not delighted, but you have given me an open ear, a pierced ear. Burnt offering and sin offering you did not require. Then I said, behold, I have come in the scroll of the book. It is written of me. I delight to do your will, O my God. Your laws within my heart. Who is this a picture of? Point to a prophecy of. Who's the one that's going to come and say, I delight to do your will? Jesus. This is leading up to what we're going to see next week. Okay. This word open the ear is kara. It means to bore, open, or pierce, or dig. Okay. And 1 Corinthians 7:21-23 says, for he who is called in the Lord as a slave is a freed man of the Lord. Likewise, he who is free when called is a slave of Christ. You who were bought with a price, do not become slaves of men. So this is showing us that whether you're free or slave, whether you owe someone else a debt or not, come to Christ, be his slave. Okay? Don't go back to being a slave of man. Be a slave of Christ. Leolam means forever, and you're going to be a servant forever. Okay, you're not going to be a servant until you get tired and leave or go away. You want to be there. Okay, you're not going to leave. All right. 7.
And if a man sells his daughter to a female slave, she will not go out as the master's slaves do.
Okay, we are not going to be able to get through this segment right here that we have to deal with, but this is beautiful what God has done here. Let me read the whole thing. What do you guys think about what we just went through, first of all?
It's awesome.
Isn't it? Okay, this is leading up to Christ. We need to sell ourselves to Christ and come to the door and pierce our ear, don't we? Let me read, she just read 7. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as male slaves do. If she does not please her master, who has designated her for himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has broken her faith with her. If he designates her for his son, he shall deal with her as with a daughter. And if he takes another wife to himself, he shall not diminish her food or her clothing or marital rights. And if he does not do these 3 things for her, she shall go out for nothing without payment of money. So, we're not going to get through this today, but we can kind of tackle it and then pick up again next week and go over this. But when a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as male slaves do. This word man is ish, and there's the Aleph Tav in there, his daughter, okay, bito. She shall not go out as male slaves do. What do you think the difference there is? Okay, it's tetzi ketzet ha-abadim. She goes out not as do male slaves, and this is different than up in verse 2 when the man went yetzi la hapashi in Nam. Okay, he goes out free without cost. But there's a reason why there's a difference here, and she may go out earlier than the man. Okay, this is protecting her. If the master gives her to his servant and he doesn't like her, she can go out early. Okay, 8, verse 8.
Verse 8, did you say?
Yeah, verse 8.
If she does not please her master, who he betrothed her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has dealt deceitfully with her.
All right, so if she doesn't please her master, if someone gives her his daughter, sells his daughter, and her husband does not like her, because it says that word designated in mine is ya'ad. It means a sign, agreed, or betrothed. So evidently they were betrothed. If she is sold as a slave, and then he takes her as a wife, and if she doesn't please her master, if she done something that is unpleasing to him, then he shall let her be redeemed. So she's to be able to be redeemed back and go early. You see that? Okay. I know I'm not doing very well setting this up for you. If it says, if you sell your daughter, okay, then if you're unpleasing to that master, and something is done and he doesn't like what you've done, you're displeasing to him, he can't sell you to a foreigner. He has to let her be redeemed back to where she was. Okay? That's a law. You must allow it. Okay, so she can be bought back early. If it's like 2 years later, she can be bought back. Okay? Why? Is because he broke faith or was deceitful or treacherous with her, but God. Okay? So, she can go back earlier than 6 years if she did something unpleasing. And she needs to be redeemed in order for that to happen. If that doesn't happen, she's not able to go. Verse 9.
And if he has betrothed her to his son, he shall deal with her according to the custom of daughters.
All right, so in this option, do you see this? If you sell your daughter, you got one option. You can give her to somebody and they can become husband and wife. And if she's displeasing, she can be redeemed back. Okay? And here's option 2. That if he designates or betroths her to his sons, okay, so now this guy is going to get this servant woman that he bought and give her to his son. Okay, he's going to treat her as a daughter now because now she's part of the family, right? Okay. All right. But guess what? If she's betrothed to the son, she's supposed to be getting a bride price from the groom's father, right? So she gets a bride price. Okay, and then she's going to be treated as a daughter of her family. Verse 10.
If he takes another wife, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, and her marriage rights.
So if this guy gets another wife, whether it's the son or the father that redeemed her, that got her, and now wants to have her redeemed, if he gets another wife to himself, he's not to diminish her food, clothing, or marital rights. Anybody see a connection there with Christ?
Yeah, he was our master. He always will be.
He's our master. Okay. So if he gets another wife, he's still to take care of her and give her food, which is sherah, which is body or flesh. Got a clue where this is going yet? He shall give her clothing, ketsuta, which is covering, and even keep the marital relations. Onata. Okay, it's only used right here in the Bible, and it means an intimate relationship. You see that? He's still, if she is displeasing to him, he's still supposed to give her flesh, covering, and intimate relationship. See what that's picturing? God and Christ, whether you're the son or the father. So keep that in mind, because God does these things in pictures of 3. There's a connecting verse in the New Testament. 1 Corinthians 7:21. Let's see. I got that one wrong. I forgot to put this one up. 1 Corinthians 7:3. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. Okay, so he's going to provide this master who finds something that he dislikes in her, wants her to be redeemed, or whether it's the son. This pictures Christ providing his body, his flesh, for food. This is my body given for you, and it is a covering. We are to take his covering, and we get back into relationship with him.
You know,
Okay.
there's this thing that keeps going around in my head, and I can't quite piece it together. That the church was Jesus' bride, right? So is this picturing the relationship and the marriage between Jesus and the church?
The picture of the son is. Who do you think the picture of the father's picturing?
The
The
Father,
master.
God the Father?
Yes. Yeah, I kind of led you way on that one, didn't I? You see what I'm doing here? There's 3 options, and you still have to provide 3 things. It's a pattern of 3s all over the Bible. So keep this, just watch this and see what this is going to show us here. All right, if he does not do these things for her, she shall go out for nothing without payment of money. So if he doesn't provide these 3 things, whether it's the master or the son, the food, the clothing, the marital rights, which is the flesh, the covering, and the relationship, she's to go free without paying nothing any further. She's not in debt. Okay? So what is all this picturing? This is what we're getting to. Let me see if I can run through this real quick. This pictures God, the master, purchasing Israel from slavery. When did he do that? Passover. And given her to his son to become a bride. Then providing for them, even though they were displeasing to him because of their unfaithfulness.
For sin.
their sin. Yes. Okay, so he rescues them at the Passover. They come to Mount Sinai and go into covenant. Okay, but they break that covenant and become displeasing. The covenant was made, and they became a special people to him, and he's still going to provide for them and cover them and have a relationship with them, even though they are displeasing. I hate your abomination, your sacrifices, and they're an abomination to me. Okay, you keep worshiping these idols and the gods of Ashtoreth and all this. Okay, they commit adultery on him, but yet he still loves them. Okay.
Question. If you
Uh-huh.
can. I mean, this is kind of the same topic, but kind of off topic. Did God ever say that He displeased with men?
In Genesis,
Yeah.
I'm displeased that I made them. Yeah. Why? Because they didn't listen to him.
Right.
They brought sin into the world. Good point. My mind didn't go there, but that's a good thing to tie into this. Okay, so because the slave woman, and now she's a bride, has rights in accordance with the law, God just put himself under law. Do you realize this? By making this law, he put himself under his law. His bride committed adultery, and now he's still got to provide for them, okay? Until they are redeemed. They need a redeemer. But who's the redeemer? He is. So he's got to send his son, or he's got to come and redeem them and provide the food and clothing in a relationship until they are redeemed. Okay? So he's going to remain faithful to them because he's going to keep the law, even though they didn't. All right. Jesus is the faithful slave and servant. We see that over and over and over in the Bible. You know, Isaiah 42:1, behold my servant, Zechariah 3:8, I bring forth my servant, the branch. Jesus is the servant that the Son is picturing in this thing here. Behold my servant, I will do prudently. And look at this one, Isaiah 53:11. My righteous servant will justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. That's what Jesus Christ is picturing. Okay, he's the second son. So that was all option one. Option two, he can give to his son, and Jesus fulfills this role. And now the father has to treat them as the daughter, because now they're part of the family, right? He says, I'm going to make a new covenant with Israel, the one that he divorced earlier, okay? And he's going to do this through his son, Jesus. Jeremiah 31:32. Why don't I have that on here? I should have that on here. Jeremiah 31:32 says, behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of Egypt. My covenant that they broke, though I was their husband, declares the Lord. Okay? So he's got to treat her as a daughter according to this law now. And Isaiah 52:1-3 says, awake, awake, put your strength, O Zion, put your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, O holy city, for there shall no more come into your uncircumcised and unclean. Shake yourself from the dust and arise, be seated, O Jerusalem. Loosen the bonds from your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. For thus says the Lord, you were sold for nothing, and you shall be redeemed without money. We just read that in another verse. Okay? So option 3 is you can take another wife. If this one is displeasing to you, you can take another wife. So he took another wife. That's who?
The church.
The church, the Gentile bride. He's still providing for Israel all these things and fulfilling the law that he put himself under, and to provide until what? Their redemption. Well, the maidservant, the daughter of Zion, was unfaithful to him, but he's not going to be unfaithful. Okay, he's going to provide all these things, the food, the clothing, and the marital rights. So we are all slaves to something. We're either slaves to sin and our master, the devil, or we're slaves to Christ. And we have died and pierced our ear. We've died to ourselves and picked up a cross. Okay? We want to serve the good master for how long? forever.
Forever.
You can't lose your salvation. That's a pretty good picture of that. Okay? So, Jesus is God in one. Let me sum this all up real quick. Jesus is God in one, right? Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Threes. He gives you three options, and God has fulfilled all of these. And the Father purchased for the marriage. He came into covenant. They displeased him. He gave them a certificate of divorce, Israel. Okay? The Son was faithful servant, and he redeemed her and came into a new covenant with her. Okay? And through the Spirit, he's providing all these things for her until Israel is redeemed. They finally realize they need to be redeemed. Okay? His flesh is the covering, and he provides the intimate relationship, even though he has found another wife under the new covenant, and even though they are unfaithful and unpleasing to him, he's still providing for them. Okay, and this is going to continue for how long? 6 years. Okay, then he can go out free for nothing. We're looking at the big picture, 6 millennial days, okay, or years. Okay, then they're going to have liberty. All the work has been done, and that's through Jesus Christ. Okay, then we're going to have rest in the 7th year. So, Jesus came down to this earth. He didn't have a bride, did he? He became a servant. The Father gave him the bride, and he married into that while he was in his servanthood. He came and served. And now the bride is going to go with him. We want to pierce our ear and go with Christ, don't we? Because we are married to him. Okay, the Master gave his Son a wife. She bore him children. We are all children of God. And now they belong to the Master also, right? Okay, and we love our Master. He loves his Master. His Master and his wife and his children, and he wants to stay a servant forever in the Master's house. Okay, so the Master brought him to the door of the house. If you understand what's going on here in this, God put him in the door in front of the temple and crucified him. Pierced his body, a picture of piercing our ear, on the door of the house. There's only one door to the temple, right? It has to be done in the front of the door, not behind the temple, like these other places that they take you to in Jerusalem and say, this is where he's crucified and this is where he's crucified. It doesn't fit the patterns God has given us in here. It has to be done before the Lord, which is only on the Mount of Olives, is where that altar outside of camp was. So that's my position. I think all of these pictures and the Levitical law and Levitical system are showing you that Christ was pierced in front of the door, in front of the temple, on the Mount of Olives, myself, okay? There's only one door, and that door is Christ. It's the cross, the altar, and you can only go back to God through him.
I read somewhere too, and I don't know how true this is too, that may also reflect the sprinkling of the blood and the water on the doorpost of the temple. Because if it was there and they pierced his side, that it would have sprinkled that way. Is that possible?
Yeah, it actually is very possible and likely. You know, you got to remember you're a mile away, so there's no way it's going to make it. But symbolically, that's what the red heifer offering was. You're supposed to put the blood in the water and sprinkle it towards the temple door, because that's symbolically showing you it's going inside into heaven. And, you know, physically, you can't make it. You can't splash water from here to the temple, even if the wind's blowing a mile away. Okay, but it's inside the, I mean, it's symbolically representing that. So I think you could say that. Okay, I know we went way over today, but man, that was beautiful, and I wish I would have been able to do that more justice. But this is a picture of Christ redeeming us in all three of those options and giving us all three of those coverings. It's unbelievable what God's done in his word. Anybody like to close the prayer?